There's another example I want to show you. Okay, while we're on the subject of CNN, I could be doing this all day on MSNBC too, but CNN at least is trying to claim that they're more fair and balanced, which is not true. They're really not letting go of the race thing. So they've got this show on hosted by Abby Phillip, who is as woke as they come on every issue. She thinks she's downtrodden, poor her, because she's a black woman, and therefore we're supposed to be feeling sorry for her. She made that very clear in a segment the other night, but she makes it clear in pretty much all of her segments. So this is a segment in which she had on 2 black women as guests. She is a black woman, and 2 white men as well, along with 1 white woman. And the 2 white men are names that our audience probably knows. Scott Jennings, who's the only fair guy over there on CNN and a Republican, and our pal Arthur Aidala, who's a lawyer. I mean, he doesn't often do political commentary, but he's doing some over on CNN. He got completely ambushed as these, I mean, honestly, all of these women are extremely successful. You would have thought that it was 1949 America, the way this thing went down. Watch this.
We live in different realities.
That's right.
I live in a reality where I know I do not have the same opportunity as you. I know I don't.
And you know
and
that
I know
too.
what, Scott?
You know that.
Let me just tell you about me. I got a law degree, a master's, and 2 bachelors. Probably more education than all of y'all added up together at this table, right?
Fine by me.
And I have always been the least paid person on payroll at every institution I have worked in. And it's not
Even in the White House?
Even in the White House.
Well, whose fault is that? I don't think you worked for George W. or Trump.
Well, guess what happened when I was
Obama's.
there? DEI.
Scott.
But I think you made it, and you are the most respected voice often at every room or every table you're in, not because of anything other than your talent and your work ethic.
I have faced this. I just said I was the least paid person, even in this moment sometimes, to my counterparts. I do believe I'm qualified. I know I'm qualified. You won't ever tell me I'm not qualified. But the system that I live in doesn't matter about my qualifications.
Jaded. I have the Attorney General is a black woman. The mayor's a black man. The head of the Senate is a black person.
Okay, New York is a small representation.
Well, small. New York is not that small.
But the numbers also show black women are one of the most educated demographics in this country and one of the least paid. Why would that make any sense?
Why would that make any sense?
It's incredibly frustrating to watch that kind of thing, Victor. I mean, I guarantee Abby Phillip was out there just as bad as the other 2. I guarantee you she's making over $1 million. And yet she still, like Michelle Obama, wants us to think this is a racist, sexist country that won't reward her adequately for her talents. And then you got this other girl over there. Her name is Carrie Champion. No, sorry. It was Ashley Allison, Abby Phillip, and Carrie Champion. All 3 of them were giving them the business. And she's going, I don't have the same opportunity. I've been the least paid in all my jobs. How do you know that's due to your color and your gender, right? Maybe you were the youngest. Maybe you had the least experience. Maybe you didn't, and you actually just weren't that talented. I've seen you on TV. You're fine. You're not a star. You're never going to get your own show. There's a reason they haven't offered it to you yet. And it's not because you're a black woman, because you're on the show of a black woman. Clearly, CNN doesn't have a problem with that. Maybe you're just not that talented. Maybe you're not quite as good on television or in the White House for Obama, who I don't think has a bias against black women, as you think you are. But this is their chance to get out there, even though the nation has just issued a referendum on the nonsense around this kind of thinking, to say, you're all wrong. We're victims.
Yeah, well, on all these things, again, I go back to reality, not what they say, but what they do. I've been in academia 50 years. I probably chaired 20, maybe 40 search committees. In not one case did I ever have a problem with getting a qualified black, Hispanic, and mostly female into graduate school, law school, or medical school as undergrad. If I had a white male, I figured that he had to have 40 to 100 points at least higher in the SAT, perfect, and I still couldn't get them in. And I must have had 100 calls in my life when I would complain from these Ivy League schools that say, we do not want any more white males. That's just a fact. And when you apply for college, Megyn, there is no instance of any African American or Hispanic who is applying for college who says, no, I'm going to lie and say I'm white so I can get advantage. There is a whole pathology of people who are white claiming, like Elizabeth Warren, that they're 1/16th, 1/10th Native American, Hispanic. Right. That was my biggest problem. I get calls and the people say, Victor, this person says he's 1/8 black, he's 1/15th Cherokee. Can you verify that? And so why would people do that if what she said is true? And the fact is, for the last 40 years, being a person of color is an advantage. And what's getting people very angry is that when Barack Obama came in, he got rid of the old binary, affirmative action, black, 12%, white, 88%, special consideration because of slavery, Jim Crow, income disparity. He said, no. It's now going to be diversity, and we're going to define that as anybody who's not white. And all of a sudden, people from India, from China, and it was like, all of a sudden you see somebody coming from the Punjab who makes $150,000. He's a minority, or she's this. And then the white working class finally rebelled against it. They said, you know what, this has nothing to do with oppression. There's no history of racism or culpability in many of these groups. They have a higher per capita income than whites do. 16 different ethnic groups do. And yet they're getting this diversity, equity, inclusion. And that's what broke the back of it. It was completely absurd. People were willing to say, because of the historic racism toward blacks, they were willing to support affirmative action for a while. But after 50 years, they said, at some point, when do we stop violating the Constitution by having racial preferences? But they never supported diversity, equity, inclusion because it was a complete fraud. And the other thing about it is, the old Rainbow Coalition of Jesse Jackson, intersectionality, we're going to make this great non-white complex of Hispanics, Native Americans, blacks, trans. There was no evidence ever that any of these groups had more affinity with each other than they did for whites. Many of them just identified as people. And she should ask herself why 48% of the Hispanic vote went for Trump, and here, and Hispanic males were 54%. So-called people of color, intersectionality. What happened? They voted against a black woman, and they are people of color. She should ask why that is. And the answer was, they said, we're no longer going to identify as essentially a particular race. It's going to be incidental. We're more worried about human concerns like inflation or energy prices or crime. And that's what frightens them, because they can't get off that fixation. And she knows the more she talks like she did on the air, the more she turns off, not white males alone, but Hispanic, everybody. And she can't stop. She's so used to being given deference, she cannot stop. Same thing with The View. If you just change it around, like you said, you flipped it over and a white person was talking about blacks and collective stereotypes, you would have I don't know, they'd be off the air in a nanosecond.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look what happened. So this Jasmine Crockett, she's a representative out of the state of Texas. She went on TV the other night. This is CNN too. And she was responding to the fact that the Trump administration hired in some lower level capacity a guy who had sent out some racially charged tweets about how if you really want things done, you should hire white men. They were not good tweets. So, okay, fine, she can criticize this guy, but listen to the language in which she does it. And you ask me whether anybody could get away with doing this, exchange the races, a white person talking this way about black commentators. Here it is.
No, it doesn't change my opinion, because we saw what he literally recently just posted, and the coddling is for the white boys. That's what's happening right now. I am tired of the white tears. Listen, if you are competent, you are not concerned. When I walk into Congress every single day, you know why I don't feel a way and why you can't make me doubt who I am? Is because I know that I had to work 10 times as hard as they did just to get into the seat. When you look and you compare me to Marjorie Taylor Greene or me to Lauren Boebert, there is no comparison. And that is the life that we have always lived. So the only people that are crying are the mediocre white boys that have been beaten out by people that historically have had to work so much harder. they don't want any more Kamala Harrises. They don't want any more Jasmine Crockett's. But I got news for them. I don't care what they do. We will fight to the end to make sure that we get our due. Because again, if you want to talk about the people that shouldn't be in this country, you probably need to look in the mirror. Because the last time I checked, the Native Americans who some of ICE have been rounding up, or the Puerto Ricans who are absolutely Americans. Listen, the only people that came and colonized this place are your ancestors, Trump.
Okay, just to reiterate. So picture this. Picture a white person sitting there saying, coddling is for the black boys. I'm sick and tired of the black tears. I had to work 10 times harder than any of the black people. I'm sick of these mediocre black boys. It's obviously offensive. It's racist. It's incredibly racially charged. She's so deeply offensive. Total pass. You can talk like that, no problem on CNN, because you're ripping on whites and white men in particular, and because they teed it up with one guy's racist tweet, so you can just go off and be as equally or more racist as you want. We continue to face uncertainty when it comes to the economy, with a perfect storm brewing as Social Security and Medicare hit a breaking point as the largest generation is hitting retirement. A smaller workforce means a smaller tax base. You pair that with our growing national debt and our rising cost of living, and we could have a very big problem on our hands. So what are you doing now to protect your family for the future? Are you diversifying? Gold can be very useful to you in this. It can be a safe haven in hard economic times. And Birch Gold has a super great reputation, and they will make it very easy to diversify a portion of your savings, if you so choose, into physical gold. Birch Gold will help you transition an existing IRA or 401k in whole or in part into an IRA in gold, and it will not cost you 1 cent out of pocket. Protect your future today. Text MK to 989898 and get your free info kit on gold and a copy of the ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era with a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. There's no obligation, just information. Birch Gold has earned the trust of countless Americans looking to safeguard their savings. You just text my initials, MK, to the number 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.